So I've booked my flight back to Vietnam in a little under a week. So in the meantime, I thought I'd do a couple of how-to videos to give you some more information about what you need to know about getting started teaching English in Vietnam. And in this video today, I'm going to show you some options for where you can stay when you arrive to find a teaching English job in Vietnam. So I'm going to go through a couple of different options, show you the different areas, tell you what to look out for. So let's crack into it.
Alright, so a good place to start is Airbnb, and I'll go into the reasons why I suggest it as we go through. So let's just start out here and put in Ho Chi Minh City, and we'll select dates based on how long you need before you're going to find somewhere else to live. So this is actually the biggest factor really, is you have to find a school and another apartment, and it's this kind of like chicken and egg type thing, is which do you get first? Well, usually it's better to get a job first. Now the reason for that is I'll just go across to the map here. Is this is Ho Chi Minh City, right? And what I've highlighted here in the red is District 1. So there's a lot of other districts around District 1, but this is essentially the center of the city. So now when you get a job, it's going to be somewhere around in this area. So for example, let's look at some of the other districts. Here's District 2, and that's this whole area. It's one of the biggest districts. I mean, really, you don't often go much further than say there. But say District 7 is down there, and that's a pretty big district as well. Again, I mean, maybe some jobs would be down there, but typically most of the stuff would cut off around there. So District 1 really is the center. If you check out District 3, you'll see that's just above District 1 there. And then Funyang's there, Bintan is there. So District 4 is in this little triangle here. So basically, a job could be anywhere in any of those districts or even further out, right? So what you don't want to do is get an apartment, say, in District 2 when you're working in District 7. Actually, there might be a shortcut across there. No, there isn't, because there's a bridge. So essentially, you don't want to be too far. Like, say you're working in District 3, which is here, and you live in Tao Dien, which is the area of District 2. And District 2 is a really nice area to live, but it's quite far. So, if you're working in District 2 and you find a place in District 2, that's perfect. So essentially, you want to find a place that you can stay in long enough until you've been hired, right? So you want to hit the ground, find a job, and then you can find an apartment. So that can get a little costly. That's why Airbnb, it can add up a bit. But there's something else I can suggest to you in a little bit, that if you are worried about money, then you can spend a little bit less. But let's go back here and see. So let's say the 12th of February to 25th. Okay, that's 2 weeks. So we've already got a bunch of places. Let's bring the price down to $30. I don't think you want to spend much more than that per night. Definitely not. So there's definitely some options, right? And you can see they are kind of around District 1, and that is quite good because then you're central, right? And then you can, if you have an interview in a different district, you can just head off to that quite easily. So if you have a look at any of these, well, they are in a reasonable price range. Okay, so if you choose something like that, $17 per night, and then you're going to be paying for 2 weeks $250. Okay, so it's quite a lot. Like, you don't really want to spend that much if you have a small budget, I know, but the nice thing about Airbnb is you can be really comfortable in that time. Basically, you're going to get a nice private room with, just privacy. You can focus on interviewing. One of the big things that I do recommend is that you don't spend too much time in the backpack area, because then you just get distracted by like everyone drinking and partying and stuff like that, and it's quite hard to focus on being professional and doing job interviews and demo classes when you're surrounded by backpackers whose biggest goal is to like get drunk every night. Not all backpackers, but that does happen. So the backpacker area is here. This is in District 1. It's kind of around here. There's a street called Boivian Street. I believe it's this one here. So one of these ones. There's the lie. There's Boivian. Alright, so there are a lot of hostels around here. So now, if you want to find something that's cheaper, you can go to Hostel World, and then you can get a dorm room or even a private room for cheaper than what you'll find on Airbnb. So let's check out Ho Chi Minh City. Alright, so here we have some options, and check it out, $8 per night, and it's got a 9.1 rating, $7 for a dorm room. And you know, sometimes at hostels you can actually get a private room too for a reasonable price, but then you know, you might as well just go for Airbnb, because they're not usually the best rooms in hostels. So you could stay 2 weeks to a month and not break the bank, and find a teaching job, and then find an apartment. Okay, so a lot of the hostels are around the backpack area in District 1 there, and that's fine. Like I said, very central. So you can't go wrong with pretty much any of those. You can just take Ubers or Grabs around to job interviews. If you want to get a motorbike right off the bat, if you know how to ride one, then you can do that and get around very easily from this area. So let me just show you a couple of places that I've found and tell you what you should look out for. So here's an example of a pretty decent one. Check this out. It's like $20 a night, $21, and if you look at all the reviews, it's pretty good. 4.5 stars. And the area is right here on the side of District 1. So District 1 goes all the way along the canal there. So I quite like the look of this. You know, they say that it's got Wi-Fi, so you can send out resumes to schools. Basically, it's quite close to District 1. It's got a private room. If you look at the pictures, there's a space for your motorbike. I saw it somewhere here. Yeah, you can put your motorbike there. So you might want to look out for parking if you're planning to get a motorbike in that period. And yeah, just a nice simple private room. If you do want to save money, you can also find one that's got a fridge and like a stove and stuff, and then you can actually buy some food from the supermarket or the market. One thing I would look out for is that in Vietnam, personal space and privacy is not a huge thing. So I think most people on these Airbnb sites would respect it, but just be aware if you choose a room in a house, um, there may not be as much privacy as you'd like, because it might be a whole Vietnamese family living there, and they might come in and out of your room or something like that. You know, just be aware of that. It's more Vietnamese culture than disrespect or anything like that. So just make sure if you do get an Airbnb that you're aware, if you don't get your own private apartment, like here you have that's also a private room, but here this is an entire home or apartment, then you have more of your own space. So in terms of how long it takes to find a job and then finding an apartment afterwards, well, it's just hard to say. And I'm going to head back to Vietnam and show you a little bit more about apartment hunting so you can get an idea about that. But there's no exact guarantee about how long it'll take to find a job. If you do have a good month-long TEFL course, and especially if you have a bachelor's degree and you're a native English speaker from the US, UK, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, or Ireland, then you shouldn't have problems finding a job right now because the market is good enough. If you are able to step into a classroom and deliver a half decent lesson, you will be able to find a job in Ho Chi Minh City right now. I can tell you that right now, if you have those qualifications. But there's no exact time that I can say it will take. So that's why I recommend a few weeks in a hostel or Airbnb. The other option is to go to 18A Nguyen Thi Minh Khai, which I've made a video about before, so I won't go into it too much. It's basically this alley here that has places that have room for rent that you can go for like a whole month, and it's usually about $250, $300 per month. You don't have to put down a big deposits. There's signs up on the sides of the street where it just says room for rent, and you can just walk in and knock on the door and say, hey, can I rent this room for a month? So if you want to do a month for $250, $300, then that's great. You know, in a month you can usually find a job, then search for an apartment. So I'll quickly just end off this video with talking about where you would like to stay and live. Well, that kind of depends if you want to be close to where stuff is happening or if you want to be close to your school. So, like I said, find the job, then you can either live near it or you can live in a different area. I personally like District 1 a lot. A lot of teachers do like District 2, which is, it has its own little scene there, you know, little cafes and bars, and a lot of people hang out there and actually don't go into District 1 that much. And there's a lot of people that live in District 7. District 2 and District 7 are quieter because you can see they're a little bit further outside of the cities. And really nice, relatively cheap. You can get really nice apartments for like rooms in shared houses with other teachers. You can get for like $200, 200 US dollars a month, 250 maybe. You could get your own luxury apartment for between $500 or $600, like really nice modern apartments. So there's a range, but I personally have lived here by the Backpacker Street, on this street here, Lelai, which is cool, but I wouldn't recommend living here because there's too many hawkers and backpackers and tourists, and people are a little bit more trying to not really scam you, but just annoy you. You know, like they treat you like a tourist if you stay around there too much. So I actually lived in this area here, right below the canal, and that was a great area because it's still in District 1, close to all the cool stuff going on, all the bars and clubs and coffee shops. And but it was a little bit more local, like out here, because it felt like Vietnam. Whereas if you live like right in the center, it's more expensive, and it doesn't really feel like Vietnam. So I know a lot of people that stay up here in Phu Nhang. I think District 3 is a great district to live in. I am personally going to be looking at options in District 3, that whole area. It's kind of like right next to District 1, so it's not like you're far away from anything. And also, I think Bin Tan can be a really good district. Oh, no, Bin Tan. So that's a big district, but it's right next to District 1. So if you find a place around there, then you're close to the city center. Not all the amazing things are in District 1. There's cool stuff in all the different districts. So, you know, don't think that District 1's the most amazing. It is more expensive, so you gotta watch out for that. But yeah, so if you follow this advice, then hopefully you can find a job, get set up not too expensively, stay in accommodation while you find the job, and then find an apartment afterwards. And I'm going to make another video on apartment hunting, so stay tuned for that.
Alright, I hope you found that helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below. And stay tuned for the videos of me actually arriving, going to the Airbnb, looking for apartments, and continuing to talk about teaching English in Vietnam. So stay tuned for those videos. Speak to you soon. Peace.